I wanted to study nursing. I used to, before I was diagnosed, I belonged to St John's Ambulance Brigade cadets, and I used to sit at home reading home nursing books and first aid books to be a nurse. And so when I went to hospital, I wasn't sick. I was allowed out there and run around and try and help the nurses, help in inverted commas, and watch them and learn what I could about diabetes. So I enjoyed it. Poor mum, she was the one who ran up and down to me with clean pyjamas and moral support and worrying about how to cope with it in the future. But to me it was just a big adventure, which was a bit naive.
And how old were you when you were diagnosed?
I was 14.
14.
My daughter was 17 when she was diagnosed.
How did that feel when your daughter was diagnosed?
It was devastating to me because I knew then realistically what it was.
So we don't hear the real everyday stories, but we do hear a whole lot of scary numbers. But there is one number that may not even be in the media during the week, and it's a really impressive number, and that is that there are now over 40,000 people over 60 with type 1 diabetes in Australia. Now, why is that impressive? Well, type 1 diabetes is generally a disease that starts in earlier life. And less than 100 years ago, if you had developed type 1 diabetes, you probably had about 18 months to live. So it's an unbelievable and incredibly fantastic success story that we're here talking about people who've lived 50 or 60 years, and we see people who now live 70, 80, even 85 years with type 1 diabetes. So that story probably won't make it to the press, but that is one of the big success stories of medicine in the last century.
I've approved the award of over 1,440 medals. And of those, about a quarter have actually gone on and survived to receive their 60-year medal. Then the numbers start to thin out a bit. There are only about 60 people who've received their 70 medal. There are about half a dozen who've received their 75-year award, 3 who've received an 80-year award, and 1 person who's actually survived 85 years and received his 85-year award, and he's actually still going at the age of 88. Now when you think back, that means he was diagnosed in 1926, only 4 years after insulin came into use.
Because all I wanted to do as a young girl was nursing. And the sad thing about that was, when I actually applied to become a nurse, I was told, sorry, you're diabetic, we can't accept diabetics as nurses. But the good side of that story is that my daughter, she's now 40, and she is type 1 diabetic also, is a very successful registered nurse, and that shows you how attitudes have changed during the years since I was first diagnosed. Things are very different now.
You know, Kellion has taught me a lot whilst I've been CEO of diabetes. I've learned a lot about what it was like in the good old days when type 1 diabetes was tackled very differently. We're talking about days where there was Bunsen burners on the kitchen bench. We're talking about days where the needles looked like crowbars. We're talking about days where people didn't understand quite as much as they do today when it comes to diabetes, and the investment that so many of our supporters have put towards Diabetes Queensland is seeing the results in the research to ensure that the next generations that may live with diabetes will do it a lot easier than the previous ones.